so far the lessons have been don't invest, don't listen, and use as many tactics as possible, from gang injunctions to excessive stop and search to even evicting our parents from their homes, instead of addressing the root cause of the problems. And the root causes oftentimes is our lack of self-esteem, our lack of faith in the people in society around us because of how we've been treated, and also a lack of opportunity to explore and even develop our aspirations. And when those opportunities don't exist, you leave us in a dark place. And that dark place can be the legacy of what you inherit in your old age, as we then end up becoming the adults of the future.
And lastly, a lot of people have put the blame almost fairly and squarely on the parents of the young people who have been involved in the riots and who have generally been considered a menace to society in the last few years. What message would you give to parents out there who probably right now feel wholly responsible for the way that their children have been behaving?
First of all, I would say, as a parent myself, I can understand how difficult it is to have the responsibility of looking after children. I have 3, providing for them, and how hard it is to look after your children when you have to worry about redundancies, and you have to worry about whether or not you're going to have a place in the restructure of your organization or find yourself unemployed. I know what it's like to be a child of a parent who didn't do well in formal education, growing up on a housing estate, and not having the resources to provide for your children in a certain kind of way. I understand how difficult those things are. And what I would say to those parents is that we have to support one another. We have to talk to each other. We have to take time. And I know how hard it is. You know, you got the school run, the nursery run, and then you got to go to work, and the petrol prices are going up. And, you know, being able to pay for gas and electric is going up. And it's so difficult, and the local authorities have cut the youth services or reduced them to literally nothing. And you just happen to live in one of the areas where that's taking place, where there's nothing available for your children. You have to come together and work with each other and support each other and encourage one another. If you're not quite sure how to do that, same thing I say to the young people. Find an organization to work with. I think the blame that's being placed upon you requires a response. I think the government needs to be made to understand that certain policies that they pass has made it difficult for you to even monitor your children. And many parents are working 12-hour days, 14-hour days, paying all of this tax, and you can't have any recourse to any services that is of benefit to you as a parent, and not only a parent of young children, but as a parent of adolescent, young adults who also require assistance and somewhere to go and a place to engage. And to be paying all of that money and not having that, and then having the government take away your parental rights to utilize your cultural context for how you look after your children, that requires a reply. You know, things have been done to limit how parents can control and monitor and deal with their children's behavior. And, you know, and I think society has a lot to answer for in that context, but what we have to remember as individuals is that collectively we make up that society. And if we find ourselves so driven and so bogged down in domestic chores and responsibilities to the point that we cannot stand up and take our position as the members of this society that dictates what's good and what's not good, to send a clear message to the powers that be of what's required for us to be able to be good parents and also be able to be good for the economy, then right then and there is where it all starts to fall down. And so there is responsibility in terms of parents not allowing themselves to be made to feel to stick their head in a hole like an ostrich or roll themselves up into a prickly ball like a hedgehog and become defensive about it. What I think is required is for the parents to develop the mind of a fox and adapt and study the situation and gain an advantageous position to make your life what it needs to be and have a society that supports that life. And that's what I think, parents need to do. And I don't think that they are to blame on their own. It's the way in which things are structured,
And lastly, if everything goes well, if the police and the authorities start listening to the youth, if the parents come together and almost lose the fear that they have around, controlling and looking after their children, if the children access the services that are available to them, if society in general begin to love and nurture the young people and the parents in a way that's going to promote their growth and get rid of the fear that's causing the actions that we see them acting out now. If everything goes right in those respects, how would you predict our life a year from now? Because right now most people have got kind of dire views of how life is going to be next year. It seems like everything's going down. What would you predict is going to happen if everything goes right?
If all of those things were able to happen, in spite of what's being said about the economy and the global markets and all of those things, if that was actually happen, I can tell you what I saw happen in my own community. In my own community, you saw people who engaged in post-code, what you would call in the UK, post-code conflicts, start to work together. In the community of Los Angeles, when this started to happen, you saw fathers who actually had opportunity to sit down and engage with their children, because through working together with business